Firstly, I'd like to extend my condolences to Aisling's family, her partner, her friends, neighbours, colleagues and her students. I stood with hundreds of people in Dublin West at the Draped Theatre where Aisling was remembered, and people expressed their horror at the violence that she had experienced. We also remembered women in Dublin West over the years who have been murdered by men: Miriam O'Donoghue, Eugenia Brattis, Anne Colmanese, Jean Eagers, Linda Evans, Michaela Davis, Bente Carroll, Anna Finnegan, Marilyn Wren, and also Anna Kriegel. There are also many other women throughout Dublin West who had experienced gender-based violence at the hands of men on a daily basis, and who are unable to leave due to lack of services, lack of places in refuges, a housing crisis among the barriers to women leaving violent and abusive relationships. If we're serious about this being a watershed, which so many people have talked about, then we need to get serious about the services that provide pathways to women. On the day I was asked by a man, what can we do, what can I do to make a difference? And I said, what we need to do as men is to stand up, is to be counted on, to be the one that calls out verbal and physical violence against women, that calls out on the misogynist jokes, the videos, the social media posts, etc. To stand up and call her out for what it is when men in the pub or in work or in a football stadium are making comments or chanting. We also need to start with schools in terms of education as early as we possibly can around gender-based violence. We as legislators need to ensure that we put in place laws that treat gender-based violence with the seriousness that it deserves, and I hear that in the Chamber constantly, that we are going to do that, and I genuinely do hope that happens. The government needs to ensure that when women need a safe place, that it's available. And the statistic that we heard today, shockingly, is that in 2015 there were 142 places in refuges. This has dropped to 137 in 2022. That's not acceptable, and I think that needs to change. We need to ensure that refuges are resourced to provide an adequate level of support in each and every county, and we note that there are 9 counties that do not have a refuge. That also needs to change. We also need to ensure that there is appropriate access to step-down and transitional accommodation so that women can move on from their time in refuges feeling safe and supported to do so. And as somebody who worked with families and worked with women in relation to domestic violence, that was one of the biggest barriers that we faced constantly. Trying to get a place in a refuge and then trying to get somewhere to live after that, when their time had finished. So we're calling on the government to correct the historic underinvestment in domestic, sexual and gender-based violence services in this state and genuine political action to improve outcomes for survivors and victims. Enough is what we heard throughout the country, from Cork, from Belfast, from Dublin and in Galway. And enough is enough. We all need to stand up against gender-based violence. Good morning.